Om Jnana-timirandasya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chit-chaitanya-manovisam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svam Rupakadamyam Dadati Svam Padantikam Vandeham Shiro Shiyuda Pada Kamanam Shiram Vaishnavam Sa Shri Upam Jagajatam Saganarahanatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savrutam Parjana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Tyatpate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Mustate Tapta Kansana Gauragi Radhe Vrindavaneshwar Vishabhana Shuddhadevi Pranamama Hari Priya Vancha Kalpa Visha Kripa Sandvivisha Patinam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamini Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachai Desatarani. Good morning. Today we will discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 6, conversation between Vyasadeva and between Narada Muni and Srila Vyasadeva, text 35. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yamadipir Yoga Patai Kamaloba Atomuhum Mukunda Sevaya Yatvat Tatatma Tatatmada Nasamyati. Word for word translation. Yama Adibihi. By the process of practicing self-restraint. Yoga Patai. By the system of yoga. Mystic bodily power to attain the godly stage. Interesting definition. Kama, desires for sense satisfaction. Lobha, lust for satisfaction of the senses. Hatha, curbed. Mohu, always. Mukunda, the personality of Godhead. Sevaya, by service of Yatvat, as it is. Tatha, like that. Atma, the soul. Atha, for all practical purposes. Na, does not. Samyati, be satisfied. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust, but this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul, for this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. Purport. Yoga aims at controlling the senses that by the practice of the mystic process of body exercise in sitting, thinking, feeling, willing, concentrating, meditating, and at last merged into transcendence, one can control the senses. The senses are like venomous serpents, and the yoga system is just to control them. On the other hand, Narada Muni recommends another method for controlling the senses in the transcendental loving service of Mukunda, the personality of Godhead. By his experience, he says that devotional service to the Lord is more effective and practical, more effective and practical than the system of artificially controlling the senses. In the service of the Lord Mukunda, the senses are transcendentally engaged. Thus there is no chance of their being engaged in sense satisfaction. The senses want some engagement. To check them artificially is no check at all, because as soon as there is some opportunity for enjoyment, the serpent-like senses will certainly take advantage of it. There are many such instances in history. Just like Vishwamitra Muni's falling a victim to the beauty of Menaka, but Thakur Haridas was allured at midnight by the well-dressed Maya, and still she could not induce that great devotee into her trap. The whole idea is that without devotional service of the Lord, neither the yoga system nor dry philosophical speculation can ever become successful. Pure devotional service of the Lord, without being tinged with fruitive work, mystic yoga, or speculative philosophy, is the foremost procedure to attain self-realization. Such pure devotional service is transcendental in nature, and the systems of yoga and jnana are subordinate to such a process. When the transcendental devotional service is mixed with a subordinate process, it is no longer transcendental, but is called mixed devotional service. Srila Vyasadeva, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, will gladly develop all these different systems of transcendental realization in the text. I read the verse again, 1:635. Yamadipir yoga partai kamalobha matomu mukunda sevaya yatvat tatat madana samyate. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbance of desire and lust. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul, for this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. So here, Narada Muni is telling Srila Vyasadeva, yes, the only effective method for controlling the senses is devotional service. All the other processes will not give a satisfaction that it may, after strenuous endeavor and many lifetimes, give us relief. Give us relief from material miseries. That it will not give us satisfaction. So controlling the senses is important, because without controlling the senses, yoga is a farce. So one must always keep the senses under control, always. So the yoga system aims at that in an unnatural way, a very difficult way. Krishna says, Klesho Digadrashtasam Avyaktasaktashetasam, that those who try to control the senses and who worship the impersonal Brahman, it's only suffering, dukkha, that so yogi aims at controlling the senses. It gives us a first step towards transcendence. It's making the mind and senses peaceful, realizing that we are not this body, and get relief from material suffering. Krishna speaks about that in the 6th chapter. Said, by the following this yoga system, Krishna says, and then controlling the senses, one can mitigate all material miseries. That so this is a method to control the senses, but it does not give satisfaction. And because it doesn't give us satisfaction, we cannot, the purpose of it is, is useless. That Srila Prabhupada writes, the senses are considered like venomous serpents, and the yoga system is just to control them. That. But Narada Muni, he gives here another method to control the senses. He says, Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat parat vananirmanam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti uttama. One should engage the senses in satisfying the transcendental senses of the Lord. And that's pure devotion and service. That so that is pure devotion and service. And yayatma shupashidati, that gives great satisfaction. That so if one becomes purified by the yoga system, one realizes, I'm spirit, I'm different from this body. We identify with the body because lust is in the mind, intelligence, and so on. Therefore, we identify with the body. But through the yoga system, when that is removed, this contamination, and that contamination is removed, one can get relief of material suffering. There are no material desires anymore. One is peaceful. And it's a great relief, but it doesn't give satisfaction or happiness. It's just, we got rid of the problem of material infection. That, well, to a certain extent, because the material infection is very deep. That, and the yoga system may remove the lust from your heart, but finally, the deeper root of this lust is not removed. The deeper root of this lust is that we have forgotten Krishna, that and that we are disconnected with him, from him. Yoga, finally, if it's not coming to the point of connecting us with Krishna, then it has no use at the end. One will not get satisfaction. And to remain in a certain position for a long time, there must be satisfaction. Param dristvani vachtate. This higher taste must be there, or we cannot give up the lower taste, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So Narada Muni recommends another process. He said we should always engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Of course, we heard Sutta Goswami before saying that yes, this devotional service must be unbroken and unmotivated. And that will satisfy the heart. So devotional service means acting in a service relationship with Krishna, a relation. The soul needs relationships and his primary relationship is his relationship with Krishna. And only if we are situated in that relationship of transcendental service, will it give pleasure to the soul. But wonder by wonder, if we perform devotional service with a contaminated heart, it will purify us. So you don't have to follow this very difficult yoga process. By performing devotional service itself, we become purified. And then when we become purified, we continue devotional service and we will relish our relationship with Krishna. And that gives great satisfaction to the heart. Even in the stage of purification, it gives satisfaction to the heart, which is not there in the yoga system. In the yoga system, there's always this danger that because there is that great attraction to Maya, that to the external energy. But when the senses are engaged, there is no danger for this attraction. They are engaged, busy. That a young child, when it doesn't have anything to do, it will do mischief. So we must engage the young children, but they're always busy. Otherwise, they do mischief. The same with our mind. We must always engage the mind. Otherwise, the mind will engage us in the service of Maya. Of course, we have here this Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Astanga Yoga, are processes of purifying the heart. And that's good. In a civilized society, that should be there. That in our Western society, we don't find that. Of course, we know that when we come to devotional service, our motivations were not pure. Chatur vida bhajantamam yejana sukatarina achta shikhna shrachtarti yanisa bharatakshana. There are 4 kinds of people, Krishna says, will come to me: the distressed, those who are curious, those who want wealth, and those who want to know the absolute truth. Most of us came to devotional service because we were frustrated in material life. That's a good thing. But frustration alone will not help us. Some devotees think, at least Daksha was thinking like that. When Narada Muni inspired his 10,000 sons, the Haryasvas, he inspired them to take up the renounced order. That Daksava became angry with Narada Muni and said, you call yourself a sadhu, but I call you an asadhu, because you have lured my sons prematurely in devotion, in renunciation, instead of following the Vedic path, which is that one goes to the experience of sense gratification and then learns from that. And then when one has experience, then one can really renounce. That Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport there, this is not true. That's not true. Sometimes devotees also think like that. Yes, let's go into sense gratification, and then I will become frustrated, and then I will be able to give it up. They think Maya is going to teach me how to give up sense gratification. But Maya is not going to teach you that. Maya is determined to keep you in illusion and not let you go out of the prison. So Maya is not going to allow you. So it's not like that. That we must learn this art of engaging our senses in the service of the Lord. So Narada Muni in the purport here, Srila Prabhupada writes, by his experience he says that devotional service is more effective and practical than the system of artificially controlling the senses. So that means we need a suitable practice. And Krishna speaks about that to Arjuna. When Arjuna says, after hearing this yoga system, Arjuna says, this seems to be impractical for me, Krishna. I cannot do it. It's like trying to control the wind. That this mind is so obstinate, flickering. It's very strong. It's more difficult than controlling the wind. And Krishna says, Asam Samabu Manu Durnigram Chalam Abhyasnet Kantya Varkina Sriyate. So, yes, Arjuna, it's difficult to curb this mind, to control this mind, but it's possible by detachment and suitable practice. So the practice should be suitable. And here the suitable practice is devotional service. That especially in this age, we cannot follow this yoga process. We can only follow the easy process, the practical, suitable process for this age, by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the senses must be transcendently engaged. That if they are engaged, they are occupied. They cannot be engaged in sense satisfaction. So therefore it's important we organize our life 20 hours a day, 20 hours a day. Engage them in devotional service. Sometimes a devotee says, I have too much service, too busy, but that's a blessing. Then you don't have time for anything else. That's because Krishna. There was an interruption in the internet, seemingly. So I was just saying the senses, they want engagement. Because it's natural for the senses to engage. We have material senses, but beneath there are the spiritual senses, and the spiritual senses are only satisfied if we engage them in Krishna's service. Because if we are not engaging them constantly in devotional service, the senses will seek engagement outside of devotional service. And the example is given here of Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra, he was a kshatriya, and he wanted to become a Brahmin. And he made great endeavors to the yoga system to control his senses. And he did austerities for 10,000 years in yoga. And then, of course, he got great mystic power by that. And King Indra became worried that he would become so powerful that he takes his post. So he sent Menaka, a heavenly society girl. And when Menaka came before him, his eyes were closed. And she moved her ankle bells. And somewhere or another, Vishwamitra opened his eyes, and the rest is history. What happened? But yeah, he lost control over his senses, but then he didn't give up. He went for another 10,000 years of yoga practice. And then King Indra sent Menaka again. As she moved again her ankle bells, seems Vedic culture, ankle bells must be there. And yes, Vishwamitra remembered what happened 10,000 years ago, and he became angry. He opened his eyes, and fire came from his eyes, and he burned the body of Menaka. So he lost control again, anger. So he went for another 10,000 years of controlling the senses. He wanted to become a Brahmin. He wanted to get Brahmin initiation. In ISKCON is a little more simple, huh? But he wanted Brahmin initiation. And after 10,000 years, Brahma came down and gave him the sacred thread. He got initiated. But that's a very difficult process. At the other side, there is Haridas Thakur. Well, he was allured at midnight by the well-dressed Maya. He was allured by Maya. Well-dressed. Today, we can't say that. Especially during summertime in the Western countries. No much dress. But she was well-dressed. But she tried to induce Haridas Thakur in her trap. Haridas Thakur, with different postures. Acharya said the postures that even would bewilder Lord Brahma, but it didn't affect Haridas Thakur. So this yoga system is practically for us useless. Sometimes devotees think, yeah, let me make a combination, do yoga and chant Hare Krishna. Yes. But this yoga system is a lower process that is meant to bring us one step further, controlling the senses. And then one must engage in devotional service. That the yogis get Paramatma realization. They realize if everything goes good, they understand that Paramatma is an expansion of Krishna, then engage in devotional service. It's just a step, but it's not a transcendental process. It doesn't bring us to transcendence. It brings us to the point of liberation, the beginning of transcendence. So Prabhupada writes here in the purport, when the transcendental devotional service is mixed with a subordinate process, it is no longer transcendental, but is called mixed devotional service. So better not to mix that with yoga practice. Take pure to devotional service as described by our acharyas. If it's done with the right motivation, then it's transcendental. Mamsya vyapacharana bhakti yogna sevate sagodan samatiche time brahma uyaya kalpate. That so it becomes a turn. Then we can transcend the modes. And that we are individuals. And individual means relationship with others. So we must live in a relationship with the Supreme Lord through devotional service. Without that relationship and that exchange in that relationship, we cannot feel satisfied. So these yoga processes, if it does not lead to bhakti, it can never be successful. Like the yogis. The yogis, what's the purpose? What's the purpose of yoga practically? According to the Gita, Paramatma Samaita, they find Krishna in the heart. His personal expansion as a super soul. But then, what's the next step? Yoginam apisarvanam matchanantratma shadvam vacheyamam samyuktatamemata. The yogi should become intimately united with Krishna in the heart and unite in love, bhakti. So we should come to bhakti. Krishna is in our heart. Krishna is in the deity. Krishna is in the holy name. Krishna is in the pages of the Bhagavatam. That helps us all to realize that Krishna is outside and inside of everything. In our heart, in the heart of others, in every atom. That's the purpose of real yoga practice, to realize our relationship with Krishna and engage in this devotional service. Otherwise, this relation is there. No satisfaction. There is relief of miseries by this yoga system, but no satisfaction. And if there is no satisfaction, even after getting a relief of material existence, finally you go back to material existence to get activities. If there is no transcendental experience of our relationship with Krishna. Shiva Svarupa Hoy, Krishna Nitya Das, we are, our Svarup is Krishna's servant, serving Krishna in devotional service. As long as that is not there, we cannot have satisfaction. It's not possible. So therefore, devotional service, we must Keep our devotional service pure, no other motivations. Just serving Krishna out of love without asking something in return. That, of course, we may desire to become a pure devotee. That, and pray for the Lord for our purification. That, and to come so that we can become situated in that relationship with Krishna. But mostly, like we chant Hare Krishna, and it remains external. The door of the heart is closed. We come not in contact with Krishna. Because of, and this door is made of the contamination around our heart. That, so therefore, it's an urgency to practice these 5 most potent practices of devotional service. And it's so potent that it will burn away in due course of time. This contamination, and the door will open, and we will be in contact, direct contact with Krishna every moment. That, because Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada says, is following the dictations of the Super Soul within. So that shows the need of a relationship that the Lord instructs us from within the heart. And we serve the Lord in our hearts and in everyone's heart. So there must be a relationship, and that gives satisfaction. So for a devotee, what is the proof that all these scriptures and these signs of devotional service are true? Because they experience, they are making advancement, they are becoming satisfied. They experience how Krishna reciprocates with them in so very many ways. And it is that reciprocation, it gives them faith. That, and only if we are situated in our relationship with Krishna, in devotional service, will we feel this transcendental satisfaction, this feeling of all-pervading love coming from Krishna. And that's very powerful. Then you have the paramdristvani vartate, and you give up the lower. And naturally, then you are controlled. You develop a position of neutrality towards material nature. No interest. Because you are engaged in devotional service, you lose all your interest. That we were reading here this morning, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and there, it was about Srila Prabhupada in his first, when he was in family life. His wife was not interested in his preaching activities. When he at home at a program, she was sitting upstairs with some family members drinking tea. She didn't support him at all. Nothing, zero. But Prabhupada, he had this relationship with his spiritual master, and he wanted to fulfill his mission and engage in his mission. And all the rest was secondary. His business, he did his business, but he had no interest in his business. That he was traveling to the pharmacies, but He was engaged in spreading Krishna consciousness in so many ways, already in family life. And he had practically no relationship with his family. If they don't support him, he said, what can we do? This is secondary. His first point was engaging in devotion service, in the mission of his spiritual master, because that is really the source of all satisfaction, inner satisfaction, not these temporary things, so-called family and so on. That so Prabhupada is giving us a lesson here, that how to put this devotional service as a priority. Unless we put it as a priority, this satisfaction will not really appear in our heart. We must put it as priority number one. That the other things may also have to be done. They are secondary. And because secondary, they are very temporary also. Our relationship with Krishna is an eternal experience. So, therefore, best to take the pure devotional service, and these yoga systems are inferior practices, which will never help us to get the satisfaction that we get from Bhakti Yoga, performing in pure devotional service. So thank you. Are there any questions, please?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Mother Vinod Manjari. Yes.
My obeisances, Maharaj.
Jai Prabhupada Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, Jai Prabhupada Guru Maharaj. I'm just wondering, then, from what you've said, this means that yoga is a material endeavor. So I was just wondering that sometimes Srila Prabhupada in his books, he refers to these Paramatmavadis and the Gyanis. He does use the word transcendentalists. I think I have read it. Occasionally he says there are different types of transcendentalists. But according to this today's class, we're understanding that yoga is material and it is not transcendental.
No, that is the wrong conclusion from today's class.
Oh.
That you have three levels of realization.
Yeah.
Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. They are all three transcendental. The yogis, they come to the point of realizing Brahman. Brahman is realizing I'm the spirit soul, not this body.
Yeah.
And the yogis, if they come to perfection, they realize Paramatma. Paramatma is a controller of material nature. There's Paramatma realization, which is also a transcendental realization. But these transcendental realizations do not give satisfaction to the soul. And therefore, they will have, in due course of time, because they have no satisfaction in their relationship with Krishna, not engaged in Krishna service, they will have to come down to the material platform again to get relationships.
Yeah.
And that is the point here.
Right.
Unless we are engaging in pure devotional service, we will not be satisfied. It will be, and therefore it will be temporary. Does that clarify?
Yeah, maybe I misunderstood Maharaj probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we should keep that in mind. Three kinds of transcendentalists.
Yes, yeah.
But the first two transcendentalists, they are useless, because to get into the spiritual world, the real permanent situation of satisfaction, one must perform devotional service, bhakti. Without pure devotional service, one cannot enter the spiritual world.
Yeah.
So in this world, we have sense gratification. As long as we want sense gratification, we cannot go to transcendence.
Yeah.
And yoga and jnana, the jnanis, they help us to come to liberation. That's good. But it's halfway. It doesn't satisfy us. It's not a solution that one must enter the spiritual world. And therefore one must go beyond Brahman and Paramatma realization.
Yeah.
That because there is no satisfaction for the soul. There's no suffering anymore. That's good. Very good. Yeah. But we want activity. And that is what Krishna says in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
He says, yes, the soul must be active. If it's so active in the body, how can it be inactive outside the body? And that action is devotional service, the transcendental action.
Yes.
It's just we have to redirect our action from serving things in this world, which leads to frustration, to serving Krishna. And then we become liberated, we become purified. It has the same effect as that yogi and as the yogis of the jnanis. But it will go beyond that. And it will be satisfying. And that is the point Narada Muni makes here.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj. It's clear now. Thanks.
Okay. Something else? Good. Thank you very much. Look forward to see you next week, if Krishna willing. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.